All right, everyone, welcome back. Second part of my stream today. In this stream, this is where I do my Bitcoin analysis, and we also look at other markets like gold and oil, the stock market. If there's some altcoins you'd like to see, we can take a look at those as well. So you could please put those in the chat. Hey, James, how are you? Okay, cool, no problem. I had an interesting session earlier today at 9:30, actually around 9:45. I mistakenly put on a gigantic position, right? You saw me do this in real time. I meant to put on one micro lot, but instead I put 31 micro lots on, and the trade worked out. So I went from like minus $147 or whatever I was to like up $500 in a matter of minutes. So it was an interesting lesson in position sizing. I was planning to put more size on, but not 31 micro lots. So it's definitely an interesting stream to watch. Anyway, a quick announcement I want to make is we're now basically in the summertime. So I need to use this time to really start doing some upgrades on my channel. I need to do some things to make this more in line with what I'm trying to accomplish here with the YouTube channel and this and that. So what that means is I need to change my schedule. So Mondays at 3 o'clock, like I've been doing for years, I will continue this stream. So this stream doesn't get affected, but I'm not going to stream my AM session on Monday or on Friday anymore for the summer. I'll just stream on Wednesdays. So my schedule will be Monday at this time and then like Wednesday at 9:30, because at least I'll try doing one stream a week, because right now it doesn't matter. I get no one following me anyway. So I need to use this time because it's a very valuable time slot. I need to do other things at that time, and I need to build my channel as far as like a backlog with videos that are more like tutorial style videos, because honestly, no one's going to watch a 1 hour stream after the fact. Even though my 1 hour streams are full of value and a lot of learning material, no one's going to watch them. So I'm actually going to try to repurpose some of them and make them into like a 10-minute stream that's much more watchable, that focuses more on the trade, right? And where the learning opportunities are in those streams. So anyway, just want to let people know. I mean, again, I'm not giving up on streaming. I just need to adjust my schedule for the summertime because no one's watching the streams and I'm not doing the right things to drive traffic to my streams. And I can't depend on the algorithm to drive traffic to my streams when I'm not doing algorithm friendly things to begin with. But even if I was, it takes time for the algorithm to drive traffic to your stream, and then that traffic has to go through your backlog, and it grows over time. I'm not even doing those things right. So, I gotta just to make some adjustments there, right? So I would believe most of you would understand, all 5 of you that watch, and I appreciate the 5 of you that watch. Trust me, I do. But I mean, it's this is rough, man. You know, so and we're going into the slow time of the year on top of it. Anyway, so I just wanted to mention that. All right. So with that said, let's get into the analysis here today. Again, if you have anything you'd like to see, um, a chart, a market, all right, please put it in the chat. Now, as you guys know, the first thing I begin with usually is the economic calendar, right? So I'm going to pull it up here because now what I've been doing is I've been generating this economic calendar here so that we can actually see it instead of me just talking about it. So I'm going to pull that over here. Hold on a second. Let me just adjust this over here. All right, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, hold on. All right, I think this is it here. Yeah. So let's begin with the economic calendar, shall we? So as you guys know, the first thing here is, here, let me make this bigger. We're in a holiday week. Okay, hold on a second. What am I trying to do here? Just give me a second here and I'll get this up. I should have had this prepared. All right, hold on. Is this it? Okay, there we go. That's it. And I can make this a little smaller. It's the whole thing. That's it. Okay. So here's the economic calendar. All right, let's go over each item here because it's important to understand what's important and what's not. Hey, Alex from Romania. Alex, how are you? From Romania. I have to put my fist up. Can you see my Romania? All right. It's Monday. How you doing, Alex? Good to see you. So let's just run through this economic calendar real quick. So it's a holiday week this week. Friday, it's 4th of July. So you better believe this week, if you're looking to take a week off, this would be a good week because it's going to get way worse from where we are right now from a volume standpoint, pretty much after Wednesday. So let's take a look. It's beginning with tomorrow, which is the first of the new month. We have 9:45 a.m., right? This is all Eastern time. We have S&P Global Manufacturing PMI. Okay, these numbers don't really mean anything. So that's why I want to show them because they don't really carry much weight. 10 a.m., which is typically a news item time slot. We have manufacturing PMI for June. That might possibly move the markets intraday. Like if you're looking at the Nasdaq or something, perhaps you get a pop one way or the other. So, but 10 o'clock, the 10 o'clock candle is typically a candle you want to avoid anyway until after 10 o'clock, right? We also have the JOLTS, job openings, whatever. I don't think that's a heavy weight in the market, so I wouldn't worry about that one. And then there's construction, whatever. No one cares. So the main one out of those is the manufacturing PMI, which could move the market slightly, in my opinion. That could be a jump of 10 or 15 points or something, or 20 points on the Nasdaq, for example, if you're looking at the markets in terms of day trades. If you're not, then it's a pretty much irrelevant number in terms of the bigger picture. Wednesday, all right, which is the second at 8:15 a.m. We have ADP employment change. All right, so that's pre-market. It could set the tone for the day, possibly. And then at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, we have the crude oil inventories. Now, these days, since oil is pretty much a sensitive topic and it's been all over the place, this can have an effect on the market if there are any surprises, if oil moves in some kind of big way. So, all right, Alex, cool. So, if you want to be aware of that, that's a good one. Usually, a lot of times you don't get much out of the market. Like you don't get much. I'm going to make this bigger in case you can't see, guys. Like, can you see the text, or is the text hard to see? You know, I could make it a little bit. I don't want to make it too big, but let me know if you can't read, if you're having a hard time with that. Okay. So that's Wednesday. Now, after Wednesday, right, because it's a holiday week, I anticipate volume to really taper off, which means the only way the market's going to move if there's really some type of news catalyst behind it. Otherwise, you're looking at slow grind, just like we had on Friday. The slow grinds are the worst, okay, especially for my strategy. Slow grinds because it never pulls back, and the Trade Scanner Pro obviously looks for pullbacks. The thing barely pulls back and just keeps inching higher and higher and higher. And at any moment, it can pull back. So it's great if you're dumb, like if you're just an ignorant moron and you're like, hey, it just buy it, it keeps going higher. You know, that's great. But the problem is when you have some experience, you know that at any moment the top can establish itself and you bought it at the top, right? So it's very hard. I have a very hard time with those days. So you should probably see UT. What's that, Alex? I've seen with MicroStrategy guy. Yeah, Michael Saylor. He's a MicroStrategy guy. Yeah, Jordan Peterson. He's interesting. I mean, I don't watch a lot of his content, but he's definitely like a red pill. He's like the philosophical red pill manosphere kind of guy. I've seen some of his stuff. I have nothing. I have no problem with him. I just find a lot of his material boring. I'd rather watch, you know, the guys from Romania. They're more entertaining. You know what I'm talking about. The brothers, or, someone along those lines. Psychax, I like him too. Anyway, but nothing wrong with Jordan Peterson. Nothing wrong with him. So yeah, I should check that out. That sounds interesting. It'll probably show up on my feed since Jordan Peterson's content shows up on my feed all the time. So cool. Thanks for letting me know about that. Thanks, Alex. So, I mean, Michael Saylor, all you have to do is watch one keynote speech of his and you pretty much get his deal. You know, he's a Bitcoin maximalist. Bitcoin's going to 1 trillion. You better take all the money you have right now and buy it, Bitcoin, as much as you can. Otherwise, you'll be left out and blah, 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 blah. I've heard it a million times. I mean, I pick on him all the time because he's such a maximalist. And every time Bitcoin's pulled back, oh, it's just a little noise. A little noise. All right. So anyway, yeah, thanks for mentioning. So moving along with the calendar here. Now, Thursday, we have initial jobless claims. We have trade balance. Those are 8:30 a.m. numbers. Again, they can set the tone pre-market. They could set the tone, but I wouldn't worry about these numbers. These aren't heavy-duty numbers. 10 o'clock, we have factory orders, and we also have the ISM services PMI. So that can have an effect intraday. Again, if you're looking at something like the Nasdaq or the S&P, perhaps it could move some stocks. But other than that, that's it. Like if there's a surprise in there, perhaps it could set the tone for the day. Now, Friday, as you can see here, is a holiday. Friday, the first Friday of the month, is typically non-farm payrolls. But I don't see non-farm payrolls on this list. Do you? So that's interesting, right? So I suspect non-farm payrolls is next week. Maybe someone wants to double check that for me because I haven't checked. I should have double checked that. But I suspect it's going to be the second Friday because they don't want to work the first Friday. The Bureau of Labor Statistics. They want the day off. They want to go to the beach too. So I guess they'll show up next Friday. They have a Bitcoin, and it was pretty interesting to see how many times Saylor failed at, and he kept going. Oh, yeah, I don't know too much about his background, but clearly the guy has seen some hard times. I don't know what his background is exactly, but yeah, I would like to know that because I pick on him a lot, and I probably shouldn't be picking on him, but I got nothing else better to do. Anyway, it's not like it affects his reputation at all. So, and I like to do impressions of him too. He has this little voice. I'm Michael Saylor. You know, he looks like this big tough guy. Like he looks like he'd have a much rougher voice than he has. So anyway, all right. And another important announcement as far as next week goes, we have Jerome Powell, chairman of the Federal Reserve, speaking on Tuesday. Okay. Oh wait, that's today. No, tomorrow. That's tomorrow. So this should have been up at the top of the calendar, but it wasn't. So tomorrow at 9:30, we have Powell speaking. Hey, Slow, how are you? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. All right, so guys, now, of course, so he's speaking at 9:30 a.m. The market open. Nice. Thanks, Powell. Thanks for ruining the market for us. So that means whatever he says, the market could be pretty wild in that first hour because you figure he's going to speak maybe an hour, maybe a little longer than that. I don't know exactly what the theme of his speech is or where he's speaking. You should do a career with it. Yeah, you don't need that with AI today, Alex. You can easily get an AI avatar voice, an AI voice, and do any voice you want. You don't need me to do Michael Saylor impressions. You can get the real Michael Saylor voice by training the AI model, and then you can imitate Michael Saylor all you want. You know, I could do Jerry Seinfeld. I could do a few of them. Arnold, a few of them. But again, AI can do it today. AI can imitate. So voiceover artists are in trouble. Anyway, so you guys are aware of this, right? So can anyone just double check on non-farm payrolls? I suspect non-farm payrolls is going to be next Friday. So we have Powell speaking this week. We have tomorrow, and then we have the holiday on Friday. And that means one thing, and we're in the middle of the summer. That means low volume. So again, this is really tough to day trade. Like my style is very hard. Over the previous week, it's been tough trades because there's no momentum. Swing trades, you can find opportunities here and there. You have to be a little more patient. So it doesn't really affect the swing trades at all. Maybe there'll be a lower frequency of them, but day trades, forget it, right? So you have to recognize that. That's very important. One tool that I use to actually quantify that is the average true range. I just put an average true range graph on my chart. And if the number is too low, then I know this isn't worth it. I don't care what the chart looks like. I don't care what kind of trend it looks like. It's not worth it. Because what happens is you take a trade, right? Like a 1 minute chart, for example, and that stupid thing will fluctuate for like 5 minutes. It goes against you a little bit, goes your way, it goes against you, goes a little bit, goes away. And then it goes against you 10 points. You're like, this thing's no good. You bang it out, and then it runs up 20 points, right? That's the worst, man. So it's best not to put any effort into those type of markets. Do something else. Take a break, relax. It's summertime. Go to the beach, take a walk somewhere, get away from the market. In August, by the way, I hate to tell you, August is going to be worse. Every day is going to be like that in August, right? So get used to it because it's a function of lower seasonal volume, and it's important for day traders, very important. So a key aspect is learning how to identify your environment to decide if it's worth participating or not. All right, let's move along. Let me know if you have questions about the economic calendar. And again, if someone could just check on next week, if you could just check for me real quick, someone, just let me know if non-farm payrolls is next week. I suspect it is next Friday, which obviously is the biggest number of the month. Now, let's begin with Bitcoin here. Bitcoin, I changed I moved my wave 5 anticipations over a bit, and I classified this structure here as wave 4, this entire structure. I classified that as wave 4. I think, Alex, you agreed with me on that. We talked about that. That was your initial expectation to begin with. This is what I suspect the wave count is now. This consolidation is typical of wave 4, which means there is likely, I can't guarantee anything, of course, but there is likely a large bullish leg ahead. When it unfolds, who knows? It could take a month, it could take a week. It all depends on catalyst, right? You're going to need a catalyst. Some kind of news event comes out and this thing breaks the consolidation. This trend line that I drew here is basically the consolidation trend line. You see that line right there? So at this point, though, yesterday, when I wrote my analysis, I drew this little arrow over here. When I wrote it, the green candle that you see that I'm making big here, that green candle was a pin bar. It was a bearish pin bar, this green candle right here. Clearly, it closed as a full candle practically. That's why it's so important to wait for the close. When I wrote that analysis, the candle still had a couple of hours before it closed, and that's how it closed. So when it closes like that, it cancels out the pin bar. And I sat there and I wrote, it's a bearish signal, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, if it closed as a pin bar and broke the low of the pin bar, right? I gave it a number just to be more specific. I said 107.4 even. And we went below that briefly, but it never closed as a pin bar. So that's tricky, man. And you have to be able to adjust to that as a day trader if you're looking for day trades. On this time frame, though, that would be a swing trade. If it had closed at the pin bar and then broke the low of that pin bar. Kind of like this pin bar over here. You can see on the chart, this one, right? And it broke below that only to go back above. So they don't always work. They're just a good heads up. And for a day trade, if you see a situation like this, you're looking for shorts until proven wrong, unless the market proves otherwise. Once the market does this, it's proven otherwise. Because when you get a pin bar, you shouldn't get two hesitation candles like that after. After you get a pin bar and it breaks the low of the pin bar, the next candle should look like that, right? Like these big red candles back here. That's how it should look. If it doesn't look like that, that means the pin bar has no effect. That means no one's selling there. That's what that means. It's a fake out, most likely. So you really can't know that in advance. The market has to demonstrate. So you could take a trade expecting that, but if the market says, nah, I'm not going to do that, then you have to make an adjustment to your trade. You can't know in advance and be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to short 1 billion shares or whatever, 1 billion coins, and I'm going to be a trillionaire. Okay, you can't do that. You have to take the chance. Market proves you wrong, you get out. That's why we have stop losses. That's why we measure risk, because there's no way to know. Markets are mostly random. Okay, so here we are with this red candle today. If you look at this on a 2-day time frame, it's going to look probably similar to a pin bar, or if you combine these two candles, it's going to look like a spinning top or whatever. right? A doji type of formation. So that's still somewhat bearish. If we could break the low and keep going, this trend line is still intact. So I anticipate if this pullback unfolds, I'm anticipating a retest of the like 102, 103 area. Okay. Now, what is that relative to? Well, the consolidation support, which is over here, right? You could basically draw lines on that support. That's where I get that from. See that? That's where I get the level from. So it's very likely if we pull back, that would be a great level to retest and get a signal from. Like, remember a week ago when we were talking about this signal? Remember, we were on the stream and I said, this thing is setting up for a long. That was this pin bar right here. And it broke above the pin bar and you see where it went, right? That was a nice long off of that 98K. So another lesson to take away is, do you remember all the nonsense that was going on when Bitcoin was testing 98K? Do you remember all the nonsense on Twitter and all that garbage? Oh, it's just getting started. You can't listen to them. You can't get sucked into that. I wrote if we broke the 98K and we maintained that break, then we're looking at 95K, possibly. I wrote about that. I said, but if we don't break it and we close above 100K or whatever, then we're looking at the fake out and we're looking at a long. I wrote that in my analysis a week ago. And that's the scenario that the market chose, right? So you have to be prepared for both sides and you have to let the market confirm things. That's how you could make adjustments and assess risk. That's the key to the whole thing. So maybe we get this pullback. If we do, and you're looking for a swing trade, this is the place to be looking for it. It's possible that the swing trade comes sooner. You could use a 4-hour chart. You could use a Trade Scanner Pro to find that setup or that confirm that signal. And then you're looking for the next leg higher, which I suspect could be the breakout leg, meaning the wave 5 of the 5. If that's the breakout leg and you're in a swing trade, it's wise to have a wider profit objective, because if that wave 5 extends, I mean, you're looking at 113, you're looking at 120. It could take a few weeks, but that's what you're looking at. If wave 5 breaks, and that would be confirmed by the breakout of this consolidation. Does that make sense? So you use this information to prepare for that potential scenario. If the market shows us another look, meaning it breaks the low, it breaks the 100K, 98K, whatever low, breaks that, then that's a new look. That's something else. And then this scenario that I'm describing here, this wave 5 scenario becomes a low probability at that point. But right now it's a higher probability after this potential pullback. Does that make sense? Let me know if you have questions about that. Right? This is valuable information that I'm sharing here about this, because this is what prepares you for the look that the market can give us next. And with that preparation, you know what to do when the market gives the confirmation. If you don't have any preparation and the market gives a confirmation, you don't know what to do and you miss the opportunity, or maybe you even take the wrong side, right? You shouldn't be shorting, especially the 102 area. That's a really bad place to go short. Now, right now, shorting this for like day trades or whatever, or an aggressive swing trade, all right, if you want to do it, I wouldn't. But if you're going to do it, this would be a place to do it. Make sense? Right? And you use you use these candle highs as your stop. It's going to be pretty wide on a daily time frame. Now, I want to point out something else. The Trade Scanner Pro has this trade that's been on the Bitcoin chart now for a little while, right? Ever since, 2 weeks, the trade was called back here on that pin bar, right? Actually, it was a candle after the pin bar, the close of this green candle. You see that? And then it generated the signal. Now, that trade was worth maybe a few thousand points, and it's hesitating. As you guys know, in my AM streams, I don't take these initial signals now because of the lower momentum environment. What I do is I use the order suggestions as a heads up, right? So you say, but don't you have a heads up? Yes. I got to turn these on. Speaking of heads up, there is a heads up function, but this is like a secondary heads up. Use the order suggestions not as a trade signal, but as a heads up to say, okay, now I'm looking for trade signals. And what trade signals are you looking for? Well, you want to see a retest of the entry price, the blue line. Even better, you want to see a retest of the area in between the blue line and the red line, which is your stop loss. I like to call that the risk gap. Inside that area, you want to see reversal patterns, particularly candlesticks. You can use candlesticks as your confirmation, like a pin bar, right? So you get a pin bar develop inside of here after your signal was generated, right? That gives you a secondary entry. So it acts as a filter. How that protects you is you avoid a lot of fake outs. And I've demonstrated that in my live streams where a signal would go off, I'd wait, I'd take the secondary entry, and that one was the right one to take. Or sometimes the signal would go off and go straight to the stop, and I would avoid it altogether because I was waiting for a secondary entry. Right now, today when I started, I had two stop outs, two shorts. I tried the secondary entry, and they both stopped out, but I got better prices than the entry price. So my losses were actually relatively small. And the second position, I put on a larger position. I put on three micro lots instead of like two or whatever. So my loss was a little more. That's why it was like 147 or whatever it was, minus 147. And then I put on the 31 micro lots, the 31 micro lot position, and I made all that money back plus some. Right. So in that session, as I continue, I'm going to take bigger size because I need to get somewhere with that account. I'm in my third month on that account and I'm just paying subscription fees on it, right? It's a waste. So the way to beat those accounts is you have to go in big and hope it works. It's unsustainable, but the goal is to beat the eval, not to take profits. Obviously, you can't do payout requests, right? So it doesn't matter if you get big and blow the account. So that's what I'm going to be doing in my next streams, but not 31 micro lots. Probably working my way up to 5 or something micro lots, something like that. And I'll show you how I do it. You start with one, positions working your way, you wait for a secondary entry, and you take more, right? And hopefully it works out. That's all you can do. Hopefully it works out. If it doesn't work out, you blow it out, right? But when you take those big positions, you're like, especially if it really goes against you, you can wipe out the account very quickly. They want you to wipe out the account clearly, right? So anyway, so you guys clear on Bitcoin? You guys understand that? So that's my Bitcoin analysis updated here. There may be that this signal on the Trade Scanner Pro, or this heads up, let's refer to it as a heads up. This can lead to a swing trade entry long, right? That's what you're looking for. Ideally in this area. So my analysis aligns with this Trade Scanner Pro signal. How nice. That's what you want to see. This is the daily time frame. So now another thing I saw with the Trade Scanner bot earlier today, it called like 10 altcoins short, right? So again, what it's seeing is it's looking at like this action back here, and then it sees this. So it's calling it a short, a lot of them. Be careful with that. Again, it may be worth a few points or whatever, it may be worth something on the short side because we're looking for this pullback, but don't be too aggressive with that. And I would probably not use 1.5 to 1 reward risk. I would probably use 1 to 1. It's better because it's a better probability that you reach that profit objective. All right, makes sense? By the way, guys, if you're watching me on Twitter, do me a favor. Retweet my stream if you can. Also, if you want to, it'd be nice if you came over onto YouTube and clicked like the like button or something, but don't worry about it because again, it's not going to really help me much. It's just nice to do. It's a nice effort. I'm going, like I said, I'm going to change my schedule. I'm going to continue with my 3 o'clock stream, but I'm going to reduce my AM streams because I need to spend that time working on my channel so that I can grow my channel and make this more worthwhile. All right. You guys clear on that? All right. I don't see anything in the chat. You guys still listening? No one checked up on the non-farm payrolls. I guess no one wants to check the non-farm payrolls. Can someone check on that for me? Just go to an economic calendar, see if non-farm payrolls is next week. If you can confirm that, that would be cool. All right, let's move along and let's take a look at some other markets, shall we? So let's go to the S&P. XAUUSD. All right, and let's go to Where is, man, why are these all Bybit? All right. What happened to like the Forex brokers? All right. I guess I'll use this one maybe. I'll do this one. I mean, I don't like these charts because like they're going to have weird, like they don't get these charts right. All right. I'll go to the ES. All right. You can't get that one wrong. ES1. This is the CME. All right. So this here is the S&P futures, the mini contracts. And you're going to see more detail here compared to the SPY. You look at the ETF, but this is going to show you more detail since this is a 24-hour market, right? And all that stuff. So this is the daily time frame. Look at this. This is nonsensical. Okay. Look where we are. We blew through those all-time highs and it's just vertical. So this may be hard to understand, but right now, this is not based on like GDP growth or any kind of healthy economic growth. This is inflation. This is the dollar losing its value. And that's not a good reason to be buying. So if you're long, great. This, you just hold on. You know, this is great for people's 401ks. They sit there, they think they're a genius. No, look at their 401k. Yeah, you're at the mercy of the market. This is not good. I would not touch this thing long. No effing way. You know, for day trade, sure, but no way is this a long, right? James Repo. Oh, cool. Thanks, James. I appreciate that. You know, I was looking at some of the people on my Twitter, people that are following me. There are some people with some decent sized followings. If they only retweeted my stream, man, you know, like some of these people have like a few thousand. Some people have, you know, way more than that. I'm like, wow, that's like a decent amount of followers. Like, you know, so anyway, but this is high risk. Now, so let me point out a few things here. When you see a situation like this, the news and all that stuff, hey, the S&P, all new time highs. Yeah, let's all have a party. Let's all blow smoke up each other's, you know what? Okay, don't get sucked in. There's nothing good about this. And here's what I mean. The risk is high. The higher it goes, the higher the risk. So this type of environment, okay, to day trade, but swing trade, you're asking for trouble. You know, if you're looking for longs, there's really no reason to go long here, right? And if you're looking to short, there's no short signal. So there's really not much to do. Just let this thing grind higher. And now we're in the middle of a holiday week, right? And there's all kinds of things that are just keeping this thing going. But when and the other problem with this too is all this money is concentrated into just the 7 stocks. This is not representative of the entire stock market. That's another problem. So eventually it's going to catch up to the market. And when it does, you don't want to be long. And all these 401k holders and all these, making money, they're going, I can't believe the stock market, right? Just like they were feeling over here, back here during April, during the little tariff drama, right? I made a video that week saying how I'm buying the bottom of the Nasdaq. No one else was calling it the bottom. I was a little early on that, but no one was calling it the bottom. Also, another lesson. Do you remember what the economists and all the people were saying back then? Whoa, this tariff situation is just getting started. We're going to see a 50% correction in the Nasdaq, the S&P. Yeah, no one was saying we'll see new all-time highs in a couple of months. No one was saying that. I thought these people were experts. I thought they were educated. I thought they went to Harvard or wherever. Right? What happened to all that? Don't listen to these clowns. The charts will tell you if you can listen to the charts. Now, the charts aren't going to tell you that it's going up here. There's no way to know. Markets are random. This thing has shaken off a lot of negative catalysts, and you know, here we are. So you just have to look at structure and assess risk, right? If you're going to go long this thing, you want to see some type of pullback to a support at least. Even if it's a minor support, at least for a swing trade. We don't even have that. So just understand, this is a high risk area. All it's a matter of catalyst. And, this thing, you'll see this thing pull back sharply, and you don't want to be caught in that. There's no reason to take that kind of risk. Wait until there's a lower risk opportunity. When? Well, I don't know. It's been quite some time, right? We haven't seen a pullback like this in a very long time. And since then, these pullbacks have been minuscule. So they say, oh, just buy the pullback. Right. Buy it until it breaks. When it breaks, now you're caught in it. So I don't believe in that one either. So, I mean, one thing you can do, you want to take small bites on these pullbacks, and, you have a move like this, great, but you have to take profits off the table. Or be okay with when it pulls back big, because that's the risk is there. All right, in terms of structure and levels. Now, I understand fundamentally we can argue about this all day. I understand, but this is not a healthy rally. This is not based on growth. This is just based on nonsense and hype and weakening dollar, inflation. And then you have all that stuff with Powell, right? They want to replace Powell. They're eventually going to install a guy in there that's okay with the present administration, with their outlook on inflation and cutting rates. Cutting rates is a bad idea, in my opinion. I'm no economist, but I have to agree with Powell on this one. Like, he's trying to be responsible. Forcing him to cut rates while we have inflation, an inflationary problem, is going to really make and they're like, oh, well, if inflation pops up, just raise rates again. I think that's a little oversimplifying it. I think it's more complex than that. Again, I'm not an economist, but you know what I'm saying. All right. So anyway, all right. So that's the S&P. You guys have any questions about that? Let me know. This affects your stock portfolio. This affects your stock trades. This affects a lot of things. So speaking of that, let's take a look at oil, since we have oil inventories coming up this week. What is oil? We go to CL1. All right, this is the oil futures. So there's been the Trade Scanner Pro called a short in this thing a week ago, right? When oil pulled back after all the drama cleared, right? And since then, look, it hasn't moved. It's just sitting here. But these are inside bars. This is likely to break. Oil, there was not much demand for oil to begin with, right? Before all that drama. And now it's just sitting there waiting, right? But most likely the next leg is lower. And this thing called for a short with a profit objective at what? Let's see, $57 or whatever, somewhere in the 57s, which is near the previous low. Interesting, right? So just something to keep an eye on there. And there's no long signal in oil, and there's no reason to go long oil. No reason. Not with a mother bar that looks like this. No effing way. That's heavy duty momentum. No way. But this is driven by, it's very sensitive to, all the drama stuff. So chart patterns aren't going to be, they're not going to be as meaningful. But either way, when you do have a large candle going one way or the other, usually that's a sign of momentum. If the momentum is bearish, and so far it's proven to be bearish, it doesn't even break the 50% of this candle over here. It doesn't even break that. That's bearish. It's pretty bearish, right? So I'd be anticipating lower prices on oil, right? Which means what? Which means if they're using oil as a gauge for inflation, energy is a measure of inflation. Well, that means, I guess, inflation is going lower from that respect. Food prices, food and energy, which is why they exclude them from the inflation reports. That makes sense. And but if this thing goes lower, how do you justify cutting rates, right? If inflation, well, no, actually, no. Yeah, let's get this right here. If oil goes lower, that's supposed to mean inflation is going lower. If inflation is going lower, then I guess they can justify rates, right? Because if inflation is high, then you need to be raising rates, okay? In theory, anyway. I don't know. I don't work for the central bank. So, but that's the idea. That's oil. Let's take a look at gold. Now, if you have any questions, guys, let me know. And if there's a coin that you guys want to see, an altcoin or something, place it in the chat. We'll take a look. Let's do gold, XAUUSD. So what's happening in gold here? So as you can see, Gold has been consolidating. Clearly, it's still strong, generally speaking, right? Higher lows, higher highs. We've been consolidating for some time here. Okay. We have a pullback in progress. And look, we have a green column. That is a heads up. So, based on what the Trade Scanner Pro sees, in the next 3 to 5 candles or 3 to 5 days, a long signal is likely to appear here. Now, a long signal makes sense with all of this structure and everything that's happening here. Also, a long signal makes sense in terms of fundamentals, because if they're going to cut rates, they keep talking about cutting rates and blah, 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 that means weak dollar. Theoretically, weak dollar means stronger gold. Okay. And gold, even though we get these pullbacks in gold, gold has never really entered into any type of broader corrective structure here. Not really. This is just a consolidation, right? It's not breaking, like it'd have to break this support over here to really change its tune. You know what I mean? It'd have to break that. So right now you have a higher low developing. It's actually a failed low relative to this low. It's an inside bar. Is it? No, it's not an inside bar. It's almost an inside bar. And a signal is in the process of developing on this time frame. We could check a 4-hour chart. Is there anything here? Nothing on the 4-hour chart. Okay, just on the daily time frame. How about the 1-hour chart? Anything? Oh, look, there's a short signal on the 1-hour chart that's about to get stopped out. Look at that. See that? Interesting. It's looking for shorts on the 1-hour. But that's not what the bigger picture says. So that's why it's so important to assess the market on the time frame that you're looking to align with. In this case, it's the daily time frame. If you're looking at swing trade gold, if you're looking at day trade gold, that's another story. But that trade isn't working clearly, right? But it's calling that because it sees this structure here, the lower highs and lower lows. So for day trades, yeah, sure, gold has been a short for day trades. Maybe some aggressive swing trades, but bigger picture, it's setting up for a long. So at this point, that short isn't working, right? Maybe it sets up for another day trade short, but do you day trade gold? I've messed with it. Gold is very illiquid. So what it likes to do is it likes to jump a lot. So you take a position, next thing you know, it jumps like 20 or 30 ticks against you. You're like, what? It jumps. It doesn't progress there. It just jumps. Nice when it's in your favor. So anyway, all right, that's gold. Let me know if you have any questions. Let's move along here. Let's go back to the bigger picture. And let's take a look at the bond market, because the bond market is always important. Should always take a look at the bond market. 10-year note futures. At least once a week, you should check this, right? See if there are any changes. So the Trade Scanner Pro has called a short a few weeks ago. That short isn't working. Okay, no problem. The general trend on this has been bearish, but it's consolidating right now. This represents bond prices, which is inverse to the bond yields. So if bond prices are rising, yields are going lower. That's lower interest rates, right? So the market likes that. Everyone likes that, especially if you're looking to borrow money. Now, is this doing anything dramatic though? Are we looking at any type of dramatic change? No. We're still stuck in this range. So I don't know. There's not much going on here. We need to break something. We need to break a low or a high. All this overlap inside doesn't really mean anything. So I wouldn't go by that. All right, makes sense? So let's take a look. Now let's compare that to the dollar index, right? Let's take a look at the dollar index, because the dollar index is basically should be like inverse, right? And this is something you want to keep a close eye on, because the dollar index has not been looking good. This explains the Nasdaq and the S&P pushing all-time highs, okay? This is not good for the US anyway. I mean, the euro, everything is up against the dollar, obviously, because this is a basket of currencies. This is the weekly. This is the weekly dollar index. Now, if this keeps going, I mean, the US government likes it because we pay our loans back with cheaper dollars. They can print cheaper dollars and pay people back with paper that's even worth less. This is what lower interest rates will do. So maybe all that lower interest rate talk, I don't know. All I can tell you is lower high, lower low, right? It's also breaking, it's pretty much broken this range, right? It tried to reverse at that range low and it broke. So not good. Certainly not a bullish sign. Next support on this thing, and the trend has changed to bearish on this thing. The next support, you're probably looking at around this level right here, which is around 93, right? Right now we're at 96.85. So a good 3.5 points on the dollar, right? So you see that not very good in terms of dollar strength, and that's inflationary, right? So make of that of what you will, but that's inflationary. And I know people are saying, well, the dollar's going to get replaced and blah blah blah. I guess I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, the dollar has been the interesting thing is the dollar has been lower, right? It's not like the dollar is pushing new lows. The dollar has been lower. I mean, looking back, the dollar has been a lot lower. Look at that. Going back a few years, well, going back a decade, the dollar has been a lot lower relative to other currencies. So maybe this is being engineered purposely to make us more competitive, currency manipulation, that kind of thing. I don't know. Anyway, that's just a conspiracy theory. All I can tell you is on the chart, dollar's broken, and that means bullish for euro, bullish for pound, bullish for gold, bullish for everything. Lowering interest rates, right? Weakening dollar. It all lines up. So if there's a big change here, that's when you could spot a change in the trend on those other things. If there's a big change here, this is the weekly chart, by the way. All right. So not a good looking dollar. Let's move along. Any questions? I don't see any questions. Is there anything you want to see as far as another, like an altcoin or something? Let me know. So let's take a look at, what do we have here? We had gold, dollar, we had bonds, we had S&P. Let's take a look at an altcoin. Want to take a look at an altcoin? I know you guys like Cardano. Want to take a look at Cardano? I know Hussein's not here today, but he likes to look at Cardano. Want to take a look at it? Let's take a look. Not much of a change. Now with Bitcoin is pretty much just, you could say it's just not really doing a whole lot. It's not breaking higher, not breaking lower. This thing continues to hold its support. Right? Look at this. Also, there's a higher low, a little mini higher low established in there. All right, it's a little bit of a change. You need to break this level here, though. You need to break this little minor resistance. At least you'll have a new structure. Hey, UTXO, how are you? There's only one altcoin, XMR. Okay, we'll take a look at it. UTXO, the bot. He's a bot. He gives me bot love. That's an inside joke from earlier. Man, way too many out of context references here. All right, UTXO, let's take a look. So, but anyway, if you're a Cardano person, you want to see that break of this resistance, this level right here. Can I get a line? Let's see. Yeah. What is that? 55. So 56 cents, basically 55, whatever. You need to break above that. Looks like it's trying. If you can do that, that's a good sign. It could be a change. Doesn't guarantee that's a change. You have this strong trend line that's intact over here, but this is the first higher low that you've seen in a while. And not only that, but it's coming off of a major low, right? This entire structure right here, this entire structure is a pattern. This entire structure, that's a pattern. So that's basically a double bottom or the failed low situation right there. That's typically what it looks like. That's a giant one. So that's a bullish sign. All right. Anyway, for Cardano, maybe this has something to do with the lowering interest rates, the lowering dollar, because remember, that's what leads to asset bubbles. And altcoin, alt season. We're going to go into alt season. Everyone, you're going to make billions and trillions. But lowering rates, inflation, things like that, too much money floating around, easier money, easy money monetary policy can lead to that. So the structure is starting to align. Let's take a look at XMR, Monero, for UTXO bot over here, XMR, USD. Look at this, UTXO, you have a signal on the daily. Look at that. The signal was generated a few days ago, like a week ago. I guess that's in line with the Bitcoin signal. It's probably around the same time we get that Bitcoin signal because, these things generally move the same. But this is a strong looking chart. Much better looking chart compared to Cardano. I mean, look at this. Beautiful impulse structure. Simply higher low, broader higher low corrective move. You have failed lows inside of here off of that support. You have a higher low now after the signal. A lot of bullish arguments here. A lot of bullish arguments. So here's the thing. With something like this, I mean, the signal was called about a week ago. There was one opportunity. If you use the filtering method that I talk about during my streams, my AM streams, you had one opportunity to enter right here. Look at the inside bar. Look at that. Inside bar, right? Well, no, it's actually not an inside bar. I just can't see. It's a doji type of candle or spinning top type of candle, right? But it's a similar idea. Anyway, it went higher from there. Okay. So it went above the blue line initially, pulled back a bit. When you see something like this, especially on a daily time frame, and you see a red candle like that, you want to watch that candle. You want to go to a smaller time frame, like maybe a 4-hour. Let's take a look. What was on the because a signal is likely to pop up in that situation. Let's take a look at the 1 hour. Anything? No signals. There was a signal back here, but it looks like it got stopped out. Hold on. Let me just change this chart. XMR. I have the right one, right? Yeah, XMR. All right, let's check USDT. I just want to go to MEXC here. I just want to see, I mean, the chart should be very similar. All right. So I don't see any signals except for this one back here, which is probably a losing trade. Let's see. Yeah, 308 points or whatever that it says there. Yeah, 308 point loss. All right. So back to our daily time frame. Sometimes you won't get that signal, or maybe it's on a 30-minute chart. Let's take a look. Is there anything on a 30-minute? No, all you got was a heads up, right? It takes time. It takes time for the trend on the time frame to change. This took a number of days. There was only a bullish heads up. And I mean, so what, do I have to go to a 15-minute? Yeah, see, the 15-minute right there. This was on today. This was today. Yeah, this was today, earlier today. All right, going back a bit. I mean, look, there was a bullish signal here. This is a 15-minute time frame. Bullish signal here, stopped out. How much was this worth? 315 points. This one gave back 312 points. This one stopped out 313 points. Again, that's on a 15-minute time frame. You're not going to take all of those. You're going to take the ones that align with the bigger picture. The bigger picture is bullish. So first of all, you'd ignore the shorts if you're trying to align with the bigger picture, right? That's how you use a Trade Scanner Pro. If you don't use it that way, you're going to have problems. You can't take every trade. Not all the longs worked out, but still, the longs are really where you want to align. My point is, when you see the signal like this on the daily time frame, right, which are these order suggestions, you don't sit there and jump in. I mean, maybe you can, maybe a small position and prepare to add. You could do that, plan to add to it. Or you wait for another opportunity like this, pull back and back above the blue line, right? That's how I do it on the AM session. Of course, on the AM session, this process happens a lot faster. Here, you're waiting days or perhaps hours, and you can use the TradingView notification system to get your heads up so you don't have to sit there and stare at charts. But the nice thing about the filtering method is you don't have to be sitting in front of the computer to watch this signal. The signal could be there and you're like, oh, okay. Even now, it's trying to get above that blue line. It's trying to work its way above. Even now, maybe tomorrow or the next day, maybe it pulls back into this area. Ideally, what you want is a pullback into this area right here. Ideally, somewhere in there, right? Followed by a bullish reversal candle. That would be ideal. So, for example, let's say you bought some Monero right now. You bought a little bit and it pulls back into there and gives you a bullish reversal. That's an opportunity to add at a better price. You're taking a lot less risk because your risk is defined by this. Of course, you have to respect that. If you don't, then the whole thing is pointless. Does that make sense? Anyway, the profit objective on this is what? 373 UTXO. So that's quite a move there, right? It's a good, nice 50-point move or whatever. If I measure that, as in terms of, 59.5 points. Yeah. Okay, so I guess that would be 5,900 pips or ticks or whatever that is. But that's what that is on this thing. So everything aligns with the long. There's no reason to short this thing. It's a nice looking chart. Maybe, obviously this is like, I guess, the original privacy coin. Their big thing is privacy, right? That's what they're all about. So, you could buy drugs with it, I guess. So, but that's a good looking chart. At least I can tell you that. So thanks for asking about it. All right. Any other questions? So any other coins you want me to check out? We got a couple of altcoins in here, right? Our Bitcoin analysis. We covered S&P. We covered gold. Covered oil. We covered all of them. Bonds, dollar index. I mean, do you want to take a look at a Forex pair? I don't need to actually, because I looked at the dollar index, right? Like if I look at the euro, it's just going to be inverse. Yeah, I don't need to look at it. It's going to be inverse. Who trades Forex anyway? Who trades Forex these days? So, any questions? So I've been at this now just about an hour. Okay. That's okay. It's okay, UTXO. Me neither. Yeah. Unless it's a good kind. I'm joking. So yeah, so that's pretty much it here. Any questions? So guys, do me a favor. If you're watching me on Twitter, like James here, he retweeted my stream. It's helpful. You don't have to, because I'm making my own plans as far as how I'm going to improve my traction using these platforms. Back to Bitcoin here. All right. So you guys now should be prepared for the week. I hope you took some notes. You remember, the key to navigating, especially holiday, this is a holiday week, so you want to minimize your exposure to begin with. The key is having an open mind and adjusting to changes that the market shows you. Wait for confirmations, right? Very important. The confirmations allow you to quantify the risk. And if you take a trade based on that and it doesn't work out, okay, your risk is quantified, you get out. You don't keep putting on trades, you don't keep guessing, you don't get mad. You just be like, all right, I tried, the market sucks. And there are going to be periods like this where the market sucks. That's why a lot of traders, I mean, most of them don't make real money anyway. This is why they have secondary or third income streams, because when the market can suck for a month, and if you try to trade, you're going to lose money, right? Even if you're a good trader. I mean, I'm not bad. I have a lot of experience. I wouldn't say I'm the best trader, but I can at least now recognize a hard environment. And I've learned, one important lesson I've learned is don't fight a tough market. There's no reason. Take a break, walk away, right? You're better off. I had a nice trade earlier today. my previous week was decent, right? It wasn't a negative week. It was a green week as far as the Trade Scanner Pro is concerned. And still, I find this very hard. And it's best to just minimize. Will the market get better? Of course it will. This is a function of volume. So when volume picks up, we're going to see wider moves in the market. So I'll leave you with this. Again, the tool that you should learn how to use to gauge that is the average true range, which, by the way, the Trade Scanner Pro incorporates. Where do you think the risk comes from? Where do you think this comes from? This comes from the average true range. So that's the calculation that's used for that. So you can use that graph by itself kind of as a market gauge and be like, all right, this range is too small based on what you're used to in a more normal volume environment. If it's too small, that's your criteria to walk away or do something that's not so sensitive to small time frames, like options. Perfect UTXO for options, right? Slow market like this, you could do vertical. You could do bear calls. Like I would, like if I was going to trade options on this, I would do a bear call spread, right? Maybe a week out or something like that. Short the call, buy the call above it. But I prefer SPX actually because there's no assignment risk. That's why I like it so much. If I'm going to do something like that, and right now there is no signal. There's absolutely no reason to short the SPX. So anyway, yeah. Well, right. That's the seasonal. That's the seasonal thing. UTX. So it usually begins around October, November. That's usually when it begins. Like the volume comes back. Going into those holidays, the volume comes back up until April. Right. We saw how wild April was, and then back to this. That's the season. CRCL circle LP. Okay. You ask me this now. All right. I'll look at it real quick. I'm sitting here trying to close my stream, and you ask me now. CRCL. I guess that's the stock Circle Internet Group. Is that the coin? What is Circle? Because I know they came out with an IPO. I saw something about that. They IPO'd and they made like $1 trillion billion. Is this the same Circle that is behind the stable coin? Is this the same company? Yeah, it's the IPO, right? But is this the same? I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with, because I know there's a company called Circle, and I believe they're behind USDC. Is that right? Or am I uninformed? Okay, it's the same company. So they IPO'd, and all the insiders, of course, made trillions of dollars today. So they're all happy. They all just went on some island somewhere to blow smoke up each other's, what. But the rest of us have to sit here and be like, I missed out. Well, all right. So first thing I see is clear wave structure, right? Wave 2, wave 3. This is a wave 4. That's very, very clear impulse wave. Secondly, right, nice to be an insider and be long from here. So what you're looking for here is, for one, you don't want wave 4 and wave 1 to overlap. So you don't want to see this. If this overlaps, right, that's your gap right now. If this overlaps into wave 1 and starts pushing into that area over here, then this is no longer an impulse. Okay, so you don't want to see that if you're looking for longs. Right now, you have an inside bar. What I'd be looking for is a long, because this would be a higher low. You're looking for an inside bar to develop, the candle to close, and then you want to see a break of the high of this candle whenever it closes, right? And then you want to see this. That's what you want to see next. That would be wave 5. And then you can try to count 5 subwaves in that. That's the likely probability. It doesn't mean it will unfold that way, but that's the setup you're looking for. That's what I'd be looking for, because you clearly have 4 waves here. This is the ideal configuration for trying to get in on a trend, right? Wave 4 to wave 5, or the completion of the impulse would be wave 5 to the next corrective wave. You don't have wave 5 here yet. So this is good. This would be a nice potential long. How much is this stupid thing? $184. What was this? Man, started out at $64. Someone got nice and rich. We're not sure what insiders are doing on that island, but we know one thing. The owner, that's right, UTXO. That's right. We don't know. It's all conspiracy theory. But yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, someone got extremely rich, and it wasn't me or any of you, okay, on this ridiculous IPO move. And of course, the news comes, hey, IPO, hey, it made 10,000% in one day. Let's all play with ourselves now. This makes me angry. I'm sorry. All right. So my average on Circle is $83. Oh, yeah. All right, Alex from Romania. Maybe you could go to that, visit that island, the rich people island. $83 is pretty good. And I guess you're still in it. You're up nice. I had no idea that this was IPOing, because I don't pay attention to things like that. But man, I missed out on that one, huh? No Ferrari for me. So, but yeah, thank you for bringing up Circle. This is definitely a chart that's still worth looking into, but my position is pretty small. Yeah, of course it's risky, unless you're an insider. Unless, maybe Nancy Pelosi threw you like, hey, Circle is coming out. Trust me, it'll be good. Right? So, but anyway, if you're looking to speculate on this thing, there's a setup developing here. It's not there yet, but it's developing. So if you're looking if we were up here, I would say don't buy it. As you guys know, I don't like to buy highs. I'd say wait for a pullback. Well, here's a pullback. Beautiful. There was an attempt over here, but that failed, looks like. So you're getting a failed low situation over here, right? But this is a good location. You haven't overlapped wave one yet. So you at least have a potential to retest the high, or at least halfway, okay? Which would be what? 239. So you have some potential, right? So like for someone like Alex, perhaps Alex, you add on this pullback, perhaps, if you get the signal, right? But don't expect much more. If you buy and this thing goes beyond the high, don't hesitate to take something off the table. Make sure you take profits. Something. You don't have to take everything. Take something, because the thing is, when wave 5 completes, that's when you see the broader corrective move, and that's when you don't want to be in this thing. Right? That's when all the clowns and all the retail that bought into it, thinking they're all going to buy their Ferrari tomorrow, they get stuck in it, and they let all the rich people out. Okay, so that they could party. You don't want to be one of those guys. You don't want to be one of the retailers making the rich richer. So please just keep that in mind. You have a price objective. Perhaps the best reference would be the midpoint and a test of high. That's within reason. Okay. If it goes beyond that, great. Try to hold on to some if it can, but don't get too married to this thing, because once you have a fifth wave in there, then you're looking at the corrective wave, and that could be broad. All right, cool. All right, nice. But yeah, nice, definitely a nice trade there. Certainly one to keep an eye on, especially right now. There's certainly some type of buy setup developing. I would agree with that, and I would imagine there may be some sensitivity to Bitcoin since it's Circle, the stable coin. I usually sell my initial investment. Okay, well, Alex, you know what you're doing. You don't need me to tell you anything. You've proven to you know what you're doing. You've called some great trades in here and stuff like that, so you're on it. From Romania, you're on it. All right, cool, you guys. So anyway, LP, thanks again for asking for Circle. I'm glad I went over it with you. All right, good to know. So anyway, guys, all right, so I'm gonna leave you guys with that. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. And by the way, on Telegram, if you guys have Telegram, there's an impersonator of me on Telegram. I'm not like a Telegram guy, but I found an impersonator, right, using my name, Mark P. Markets, and there's another one, Mark P. Markets 1. If you do me a favor, you just report. I reported the guy, but even my impersonator can't grow a following. That's how bad it is. The guy has like 2 people following him. All right, so even my impersonator can't get. I mean, what a moron, right? If you're going to impersonate someone with a following at least, man. What the hell's wrong with you? So anyway, just wanted to mention that real quick. So guys, so Wednesday I will stream the AM session. We'll see how that goes. I'm planning to throw around some more size. Not like today, but we'll see how that goes, and then we'll go from there. So just as a reminder, I'm going to change my schedule, but I will be streaming at this time again I'm not changing this time slot. All right. All right, you guys. So again, thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening, wherever you are in the world. And thank you again for watching.